FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the Fast Lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So lost in Shador Mania, or whatever you want to call it, is the fact that over the weekend, really dating back to last week, our very own NFL insider, Lake Lewis of SportsJourney.com, was the first to bring this up, really a couple of weeks ago. And of course, when the big networks get a hold of it, they credit their inside sources, not Lake Lewis. Not the first time that's happened. Probably won't be the last, because why actually give credit where it's officially due? Of course, you can hear his show, VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com/podcasts, and hear Lake Lewis Tuesdays in the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and Ty Tracy, 7 to 8 a.m. right here on the VTR and Sports app. But the news that broke about the Washington Commanders moving back to the old RFK Stadium site, you don't have to be the fast lane to figure out the most obvious that even we could figure out, because let's be real here in the fast lane. It's not like we're the biggest prognosticators here. You don't have to call Miss Cleo for this.
Don't go blindly through life. Call me now for your free reading.
RIP, of course, to her. Legend when it comes to psychic capabilities. By the way, TJ, do you even remember who Miss Cleo is? Do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
Just Google Miss Cleo. Well, not now.
Not now?
Whenever you get a free moment, Google Miss Cleo. Make the earmark for it. For our younger audience out there, she's epic, in a number of ways. Entertainment-wise, most notably. Not for real prognostication. But when you're talking about the Washington Commanders, the idea of going to Loudoun County, Virginia, like an hour away from Washington, D.C., the idea of going somewhere in Maryland, it became obvious that those were more leverage points to get what they wanted, which is congressional action, because Congress does have to get involved in decisions made in Washington, D.C. proper. And, of course, Mayor Muriel Bowser and others to get them all on board. But the ultimate goal was to get back into Washington, D.C. Yeah. Just the general nature of being able to craft a stadium in the D.C. market, in D.C. itself, as opposed to the outlying areas, is because there's so much mobility in D.C. to move around and to be able to support it with the right atmosphere. And not to say there aren't situations where being in the suburban areas are beneficial. But when it comes to a franchise like the Washington Commanders, that's just part of the reason why being in Washington, D.C. just made a lot of sense. Meanwhile, the other thing about this move, by the way, cut your mic off if you're not ready to talk so we don't get the echo, because I'm so loud that I can talk into two microphones. That's why. Trust me, TJ, you're learning things about me where, like, I'm so loud that I'm capable of talking into two microphones. Not you, not Ty, not Philip, not Trey. I'm the loudmouth around here. I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek and sarcastically, but it is what it is. But the other thing about the Commanders and why the desire to go back to Washington, D.C., I think within the franchise, especially when Josh Harris took over, a lot of their goals and objectives, along with the NFL's prodding, has been to erase the stench of prior ownership and to go back to a time where, when it was, and in hindsight, now that we know what we know about Jack Kent Cooke, the prior owner of the Commanders, it's not like this guy was some kind of saint, or that George Allen was a saint either. I get it. He's politically inclined, whatever you want to say.
Miles is better than Dan Snyder, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's a very low bar to clear in terms of quality of human being and character. Dan Snyder, like, the litany of offenses are clearly there.
Look, as someone whose mom was a huge Washington fan, is my grandfather, who was a Washington fan when they were the name redacted. Jack Kent Cooke may have not been the best man in the world, but he loved the name redacted team so much that he put his heart and soul into it up until the day he died. And it was unfortunate his kids didn't take over, because that led to Dan Snyder crawling in, chasing Joe Gibbs away, and we all know what happens from there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wondering about the slander of Jack Kent Cooke, go read the book, because he's also involved in the Los Angeles Lakers. But, Roland Lazenby, friend of ours from Roanoke, Virginia, the author, has the book on Kobe Bryant, and it goes into the history of the Lakers, because anything Roland does is like 600 pages, and we love him for his in-depth research, but, I mean, it kind of is what it is. And then Jeff Pearlman, who Again, politically a lot more left than I would say that I am, but I admire his work. He's very gifted as a journalist, and I think very highly of his work. This is not to discredit him, even though we don't see eye to eye on everything politically. But Jeff Pearlman is very well researched. When he does books, he goes in depth and talks to tons of sources. By tons, we're talking hundreds. And both of them, can speak to the lack of quality of a human being that Jack Kent Cooke was. And Dan Snyder was worse. And he took the franchise for 25 years and basically, we're speaking in a sports sense, not literal, but held it hostage from being able to realize its abilities as a franchise. And so the desire to go back into Washington, D.C. proper represents that return to the era where, okay, Jack Kent Cooke was hardly a saint, but he cared about the team. It showed in the trust of Joe Gibbs, the fact that they won multiple Super Bowls, and, well, why should we tell you anymore? Let our friends from this great song.
Those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders.
Oh Goody and Big 57. Who wrote that song like at the very end? It's like the last glimmers of hope of the Washington Commanders. But let them explain. For those that may be unfamiliar, why not let them explain through the great lyrics of their fantastic Commander song why the return to RFK Stadium matters so much?
Let me tell you something about some good fans. Back in the day, RFK was our palace. If you don't know, you need to ask about us. Think we're gonna lose? Well, I can't believe you doubt us. Had the whole crowd screaming out, "We want Dallas!" Those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders.
That is why good fans, they love their team. RFK is a dump from like an aesthetics venue. And it was, as an Eagles fan, I think I can say this as well. The Vet was a dump. The old Meadowlands was a dump. I'm sorry to you, TJ, but the Dallas Cowboys, even though this was back when they were...
It's looking a little bit like those Dallas Cowboys is peaking in the 90s.
Playing in Texas Stadium, so God could watch over his team, or in the last 25 years of them doing nothing in the playoffs, basically pee and mock his team, pee on them with the hole in the stadium in Dallas. The reality is those venues, they may have been dumps, but they were our dumps for fans. And there was an ownership collective for the Washington Commanders. RFK Stadium, the bleachers shaking. To hear friends of ours like Doc Walker and Lake Lewis and others describe why that matters. It's so nostalgic for the fans who they look back on that era, because until the last couple of years, and really this past year with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn and Josh Harris in their first full season together through an offseason, there was nothing to be excited about. The dump in Landover, Maryland, it is a dump. It's a horrible venue. I've been there before. Ingress is terrible. Egress is terrible. There's nothing around it. It's in a suburb area. They once had 90,000 seats, but attendance was so bad because the franchise was so poorly run, it got reduced by well over 10 to 15,000 people. I don't even think it's 73,000 right now as far as the Washington Commanders in their stadium. And this is the value of live radio, by the way, that we get to look at what the stadium capacity is. But Northwest Stadium in Washington, D.C., or Landover, Maryland proper, has been reduced from 90 to 67,000. Should have been 66,600 to mimic how Dan Snyder was perceived, 666 mark of the beast, amongst Commanders fans. But it was reduced multiple times. There's nothing aesthetically appealing about it. They had the sewage leaks. They had other things about the stadium falling apart. It was the epitome of that venue. So it was a dump. There was no character to it. There were no good memories. And at least RFK Stadium, even though it's still up, although it's going to be torn down, even though it is a dump, it is rightfully the type of situation where if you're a Commanders fan, you can go, it's a dump, but it's our dump, and we love it because of the memories of, okay, the bleachers were so shoddy and the venue was so shoddy that it literally was shaking when the fans are cheering and they are screaming out, "We want Dallas," and then beating Dallas en route to a Super Bowl. All those things are true. But would you rather relive that time if you're the Commanders, or the 25 years in their current dump, which are marked by, basically, I know Jack Kent Cooke got them there, but the majority of the time at the stadium in Landover is really marked by the man who guided the team for the majority of that tenure there?
Have you seen the new pictures of the stadium, Ed? Like
Oh,
the
it looks
proposals,
fantastic.
it looks beautiful, and the glass roof,
Yes.
everything. I'm excited to see that, and it's too bad we got to wait till 2030 because that's when they're saying renovations will be done. So, but I love what I'm seeing from it.
You know, it's great. The Commanders, it brings up that level of nostalgia, and that is why there is such interest and hype in bringing this particular venue
Will
back.
it still be called RFK though, or is it still going to be called RFK Stadium?
I mean, initially it probably will, but I'm sure they're going to sell the naming rights.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I mean, this is big business NFL. Like, nostalgia gets thrown out the window when you have a chance to make a bunch of money. Outside of Lambeau Field and maybe Soldier Field, and even the Bears are trying to move out of that. It's a nice stadium, but the grass at Soldier Field is atrocious at that venue. It's terrible. But though outside of those, everything else is for sale. I mean, again, this is the NFL. When you can have a chance to make a few extra $1 million, they're not turning it down. They have no problem with that. Meanwhile, if you have a chance to make extra money, or more importantly, save extra money, you could do that at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Great opportunities like food. Donnie D's Bagels if you're in Roanoke, enjoying Fleet Feet Roanoke, or in Lynchburg, downtown Cairo. That is a fantastic place. Here's the hack, by the way, with downtown Cairo. Takeout. You can order online. The plates, the dishes are humongous. They are worth getting. You can have meals basically for 2 nights for the price of one. That's how big the bowls are at downtown Cairo. Duck Donuts to treat you, your office, or your staff. 801 Raw Bar, the Yard on 5th Street. And if you're heading down to Danville to go to the casino down there, Ballad Brewing gift cards. They're all available and more at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now to other topics that we have not addressed but need to in the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
So the NFL continue to put up impressive viewership numbers around the NFL draft. The average of 13.6 million for the first round and 7.5 million for the entire draft added together is the second most watched draft, day one and draft total ever. The only time it was eclipsed was the COVID draft round of 2020, where Roger Goodell was doing it from his basement, and that's how everybody was consuming the NFL draft. This is why there is so much hype around it. For all the Shedeur Sanders talk about what would happen with him, it provided compelling theater through day 2 and into day 3 of the draft. And next year, potentially with Arch Manning being in the draft, but even not, what is expected to be a stronger quarterback class and those things selling, this is as big of a sporting event as any. And I will say this, as much as it's fun to make fun of Mel Kiper for how he was just ridiculously defensive of Shedeur Sanders and criticizing the NFL and everything with the Shedeur Sanders fall, the reality is the draft wouldn't have the popularity that it does for Mel Kiper Jr., and he does deserve the hype for what he did to get this event off the ground, culminated with, ironically, this most recent draft. And I don't know if anything will ever top COVID 2020 because there were no NHL playoffs at the time, no NBA playoffs, because remember, everything was frozen in 2020, and this was one little bit of sports in the Sahara Desert. But the NFL's value is shown through the NFL draft. Speaking of which, by the way, we will get to that, plus the Washington Commanders stadium site with Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports momentarily. But
number 4,
Virginia Tech offensive lineman Bob Schick, who announced he was transferring, is going to Oklahoma State. This is the classic case of it can be a win-win for both parties. Bob Schick gets a chance to start at Oklahoma State. They're robust with NIL money, even though T. Boone Pickens has passed away. Huge endowment with that particular school. If I'm Bob Schick, I take advantage of it. And for Virginia Tech, how much of a loss is it when you've got a new offensive line coach who wants to bring his guys in, and he was not exactly flush with returning great offensive linemen when the top 2 linemen, center Caden Moore to LSU, and the left tackle Xavier Chaplin already transferred out. Those were the 2 anchors. Everything else needed to be upgraded. This is a win-win where Virginia Tech can move on to a new scheme, and Schick can get a new opportunity, potentially with more money. Meanwhile, William & Mary announcing their football program will join the Patriot League as an associate member starting in 2026, just in football. So for smaller schools in Virginia, back in the day when JMU and ODU and William & Mary were all in the CAA together, I loved it. And I don't begrudge JMU and ODU for going to the Sun Belt and other schools for breaking up. But as we've seen conferences splinter, I've gotten numb to seeing these type of things pop up, and I am less impacted than ever before just seeing why that's the case. I hate the idea of, the CAA losing William and Mary, but going and reuniting with Richmond is actually a better fit because they're the two programs in Virginia that are connected to that. If you can find a way to get Norfolk State and Hampton involved, even better, but don't hold your breath on that. The NBA and NBC are discussing an international competition for the league's All-Star game next year, February 15th, 2026, out in Los Angeles. Not at the Lakers' home, but at the Clippers' home. I mean, I guess the All-Star game concept to me in all sports has just lost its luster. Baseball is the closest because it's the closest to a legitimate game, but everything else are just skills competition where it's obvious the players really don't care, and if they don't care, why should I? Meanwhile, over the weekend, Liberty turned a 3-2 deficit into a 6-3 victory against Louisiana Tech. 4-run, 7th-inning rally to complete the sweep over the Lady Texters, softball, not basketball, this past Sunday over at Liberty University. The notes about this is it's another 40-plus win season for Dr. Dot Richardson. 20-3 in Conference USA play. Second, secured the CUSA regular season title once again. And for Liberty, it speaks to the consistent dominance of Dr. Dot Richardson. They lose games, but only 10 of them. They've gotten stronger over the course of conference play. This is a program that now, according to your polls, is right around the top 25. They are poised to be in the postseason in a year where Virginia baseball looks like they're finally getting it together, but still on the fence. Virginia Tech baseball, they're on the fence. Virginia lacrosse has been a disaster. Liberty baseball started hot, but they faded lately. Liberty softball, you could argue, of spring sports, they have been the most consistent year-over-year team. Not the upside of Virginia baseball. 3 trips to the College World Series, 4 in the last decade, and 2 to the College World Series final. They won one of those. Or Virginia men's lacrosse with a couple of national championships, but this is as good as it gets. Meanwhile, speaking of as good as it gets, Candy Waller as good as it gets on Commander's Insight. We'll get it from her next. This is the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app.
Selection, value, finance options, and exceptional service. Why start anywhere else? It's all in one location at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. And with straightforward pricing and inventory arriving daily, there's no reason to start anywhere else than the Motor Mile. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. The Used Car Superstore is your one stop for most makes and models. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs, many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Shop over 900 used vehicles in stock now, more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company, so getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile. With financing options for every budget, you're a valued customer and not just a number on the Motor Mile. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier family-owned car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. And we're excited to welcome Honda and Hyundai to the Motor Mile family. Why start anywhere else?
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Join us on May 2nd and 3rd for Freedom 424's annual 5K event, Run for Their Lives, brought to you by Thrive Lynchburg Health and Wellness Expo. This combination of events seeks to bring Lynchburg all of the health and wellness resources that it so deserves. Come experience our 5K, our kids' 1-mile race, and an expo with over 50 vendors to give you the tips and tricks you need to stay healthy. We hope to see you out at the LU Indoor Track Complex Friday night or Saturday morning, May 2nd and 3rd.
Are you ready to move to the next chapter of your life? That means you're ready for us. Hi, I'm Moyanne Harding, the region's only total turnkey realtor and interior designer. We'll come to you and help you decide what you're ready to let go of and bring you top dollar for those unwanted items. Most importantly, we'll sell your most valuable investment, your home. With decades of experience, just hand your keys to us and let the stress melt away. Call me today and book your consultation, www.moyanne.com.
Moyanne Harding, brokered by Keller Williams.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. and every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
It's natural to wonder why you should consult a legal advocate after a serious auto accident. The reason is personal injury cases are complex. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. Filing a claim isn't just about filling out a form and waiting for a check in the mail. Most accident resolutions require intricate knowledge of Virginia's personal injury laws and experience working with insurance companies. That's where Trost Law will help. Call us at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com so we can do the work to obtain the best result for you.
Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTR in Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Nostalgia, one of the big reasons for the Washington Commanders. Fan excitement around the return to the old RFK Stadium site. Someone who covers the team. She's been there and is there regularly for Bowie TV Sports. It's Bowie TV, but I mispronounced it. First of all, it was unintentional. Now I guess it's just intentional because I should know better. But the president of Bowie TV Sports, Madam President, Candy Waller, back in the Fast Lane. Seawall, great to be speaking with you. How much of the excitement for the Commanders on the return to RFK is another opportunity to kind of wipe out what was largely the better part of a 2.5-decade period, with prior ownership included, where Commanders fans didn't have a lot to be excited about?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the energy was there. Even when you see one particular Washington legend, that is John Riggins, was present yesterday, that lets you know all of the excitement is there, because we know that that is one of the Washington legends that almost promised he would never be around as long as the previous ownership group was around. So to see him there present along with Darryl Green, Coach Joe Gibbs, and Doug Williams was really a treat. It lets you know how special this moment is.
It's big for the Washington Commanders. How much of it is also the fact that, RFK Stadium as it constructed right now, let's be real here, it's kind of a dump, but it's like the Vet to Philadelphia or the Meadowlands to Giants fans, or the Dallas Cowboys old stadium to Dallas fans. They may have been dumps by the end of their tenure, but they were, quote, our dumps, end quote, where fans felt like there was a real emotional connection.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday, they kept using the term a spiritual ground for the team. And so that implies the whole emotional component there that you're mentioning, because you can just feel the energy in the room of the possibilities. It's still not final yet. It's still not final. They still need a few more votes from the DC City Council. That vote has to take place, I think, early summer. But they're still very optimistic that this is going to go through, because the energy around it now is undeniable. People want this stadium back in Washington.
What is your take as far as, if you were a betting person, the odds are they get the votes or they don't get the votes to push through on a new stadium on the old RFK site?
I think it's going to be very hard, especially going through all of the documentation. They gave the media some pretty close hold documents early on, and then after the announcement was publicly made officially that about the return to RFK and the overall deal that's on the table, some of those documents were then public knowledge. It would be hard to deny some of the very important points and the key points that they brought up, especially the current state of affairs. So I think this will probably go through on the first go. It almost feels like they would need at least 7. They don't need everyone to vote, so this isn't like a consensus thing. So I think out of 13, they would need 7, so that's the majority. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know the exact date just yet, but it will be this summer.
How much of the assist, and we're talking with Bowie TV President and Madam President, we should be specific, Candy Waller here in the Fast Lane. How much of this is also the NFL really getting behind this, using their clout with Congress and the larger scale influence there, and the NFL wanting to certainly undo the Dan Snyder era, but sensing an economic opportunity as well?
I think it's an economic opportunity. That's exactly right, because teams doing well is always a good thing. But a team that is located in Washington, D.C. doing well is an amazing thing. For Roger Goodell and some of his staffers to be present yesterday, again, when it's not even a final deal, let you know everything you need to know. As I like to say on my show, that's your use your clues times 12 right there, to let you know that the league is behind this. They want this to happen, and they want to be a part of it. They think it's going to be historic. And it just also reminds everybody that everyone knows how beloved RFK Stadium was.
That is the perspective that we've come to expect. It. Seawall SE and Bowie TV president, Madam President Candy Waller, bringing it today in the Fast Lane. Seawall, thank you for hopping on with some big picture perspective on the Commanders. The big news yesterday, and we love when you're able to share that with us today in the Fast Lane.
Absolutely, and I love it when you guys have me on to share. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll be talking to you all again soon.
It is our pleasure. Candy Waller with us once again here in the Fast Lane. A shorter chat with her because we're getting ready to kick it over to Virginia Tech baseball. They are right here in the LBG, not far from our spot.
Go home, the Bel Air.
Not quite there, but not far from it, against the Liberty Flames. So tomorrow we will be back with more on this and your feedback that's come in. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Meanwhile, on to Virginia Tech baseball.
If you didn't want that